In 3 weeks' time, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana will have the unenviable task of delivering the state budget. It comes in a year where economic growth is expected to slow substantially, with the Reserve Bank pegging GDP growth of 0.3%. Consultancy group Deloitte says it will be extremely difficult for National Treasury to raise taxes under the current circumstances.
I don't believe currently government would have room to raise taxes because you're already squeezing a taxpayer who's already being taxed from multiple angles. So my expectation is that we cannot ignore the economic challenges that we're facing currently. That to want to tax the taxpayer more, I don't see the feasibility of it in the short term. In fact, what I think government should be focusing on is rather on indirect taxes to create a conducive environment so that people in real terms have more disposable income to be able to fill back or channel that money back into their economy through their spending, so that government can then collect taxes rather from those means as opposed to increasing taxes to people already being highly taxed.
The Deloitte briefing reiterated the fact that persistent load shedding, especially at the current higher stages, pose the biggest risk to the economy. And there's agreement that Eskom needs to be fixed as a matter of urgency. The Finance Minister hinted at the mid-term budget that the government would be looking to take on 1/3 to 2/3 of Eskom's debt onto its balance sheet in order to free up Eskom's ability to borrow money for growth. But Deloitte warns that such an exercise must be done in tandem with ensuring Eskom's long-term viability.
Moving debt off Eskom's balance sheet and repositioning it to the government is one part of a restructuring. It's balance sheet restructuring. What we ultimately need is a turnaround of Eskom itself, so addressing its operational challenges. Unless that is affected, then you probably are in a position where you'll be gearing up a balance sheet again and finding yourself in a very similar situation years hence. So the opportunity to do the fix, to do a permanent repositioning, stability of the business, creating that platform to return it to what it should be is being created by government, and we need to harness it.
The mining sector has been a star for government finances in recent years, having been a key contributor to the country's tax contributions. And while that's expected to be the case in the Finance Minister's announcement, there's a warning that the sector's current challenges of lack of access to power, as well as being unable to timeously get product to export terminals, could affect the fiscus down the line.
As you've alluded to, some of the challenges that we're facing around, for example, supply chain to get the products out of the country, it does pose a challenge in terms of, the revenues or the revenue windfall that we received in the prior year. I'm not expecting that we're going to have the same levels currently going forward. But again, within the short term, because initially in the first half of the year, we'd collected more than we expected. Within the last 6 months, I do expect a dent, but not too much of a dent. I do expect that, the real effects of what we're seeing now with the challenges, for example, around the supply chain to get the products out of the country, it will be felt in the sort of medium to long term in the reduction in the tax collections.
The key message in Deloitte's briefing was that economic growth was the key to resolving many of the country's socio-economic woes, not to mention further boosting the fiscal coffers. But that ultimately that can't happen for as long as the energy crisis is not addressed as a matter of urgency. Nompumelelo Siziba, SABC News, Johannesburg.